Hello! Again! I'm actually, well, the problem is lately I've been doing so much machine sewing, and I can't really do machine sewing on lives, because it's just so loud. But I totally can do shoemaking. I just haven't done shoemaking since December, so hopefully I'll be back off and on all weekend when I try to get these done. Because in reality, there's not that much of the process that I have to film. It's just little snippets here and there, so a lot of it's just slow work. Bit by bit. Got those shank pieces done. Now onto the insoles. Which thankfully this is an easy pair of shoes. I'm just cementing everything together for this pair. The one that I'm doing immediately after, I'm doing 2 in a row because I've got horrible choices like that. That one's going to be all the fancy stitching. So, trying to get this pair done as quickly and easily as possible. Finished that just in time for the air to turn on. It's warm up here, so it's going to be loud for... Oh, I should actually probably also move that so it's aimed at me. That would be helpful. So sorry if it's loud for a few minutes. Unfortunately, the air in here is not remotely quiet, and it is rather intensive. Problems with being upstairs. Not being like 78 degrees. It's hot outside. It's supposed to be up to 100 in a couple of days, which I am not looking forward to. But yeah, it is what it is. Okay, which one do you go to? Bailey's asleep downstairs. It's his afternoon nap time. I'm sure in about an hour she'll come upstairs and get really fussy. She usually does. I definitely could have left that wider in a few places. But it's an insole, so it's okay. I just know that it needs to be a fair bit wider for the outsole. I got it about the right width down there. I just left it really narrow up here, which is... well, I mean, it's kind of not too bad. Not too bad. Should be okay. Yeah, I figured I need to do the other times other than Friday mornings for me. Like, I really need to vary it up a bit, so ta-da! Hopefully I can do that more often. It's just dependent on projects. Like, it's been weird projects lately. Way more machine sewing than I'm used to. Hopefully I can get back to doing more shoe stuff. There's another pair, I want to do this pair, and then I've got another pair that I'm doing immediately after it. And I also really want to do another pair that's completely different. Well, actually, I want to do 2 pairs in September, but I highly doubt I'll manage both of them. But, you know, I can dream. I like to do more shoemaking. It's just... it is like, I like doing the shoemaking part, and I would like to do more of it. I've had a lot of events and things that I've needed to make stuff for, and so I've needed to orient my time for those. But, you know, once I get past the cruise in October, there shouldn't be all that much stuff going on. We've got a few things on the schedule, but nothing that requires me to make a lot of stuff. In fact, I don't think any of it requires me to make anything. I do just fine without making a thing. So, kind of the point that I'm at now. Yeah. But hopefully I can manage to get all the stuff done that I want to this year. Another day, yes it is. In soul time. That's the direction I have to go. Oh, come on. Don't be a problem. Here we go. Trying to reteach myself to not hold the knife in a damaging way, and it's like, focus. Just keep focusing. Don't hurt my fingers. I apparently keep scraping and scratching my hands, and I don't know how, because it's not like I've been doing stuff with knives until right now. So I don't know. Working on a grilled cheese sandwich. Ooh. Recently started making grilled cheese sandwiches with garlic herb butter instead of just regular butter. It's good that way. Geez, air conditioning. Going on forever. You want to make stuff more than you need the stuff. Yeah, I feel that. When I was downstairs, I noticed that the one of the local quail pairs has decided to just hang out in my yard. They're not, like, I have food out, and so they sometimes come for that, but they were just hanging out in the shade, because it's a really hot day, and there's some good shade in our yard, and it's a safe place. Like, if I go outside or the dog goes outside, they, like, jump up onto the fence and just kind of keep an eye on things, but they won't run away unless you get really close to them now. They're, like, just used to us. Gotta clear out the fabric stuff. Oof. Yeah. I'm hoping to do that soon. I'm hoping to do like a sewing marathon week. A couple of weeks once I get past these two shoes. 2 shoe projects. No, don't do that. But I know that I need some walking shoes, and day shoes, and whatever for this trip, so. I'd like to make a pair of evening shoes, but I have like backup options and nothing else, so those are not priority. Yes, these are, well, they're heels, so they'll function as day shoes. Like, they're on a last that I know I'm comfortable walking in, and I'm probably going to make, if I have time, a pair of spats, so that way I can wear them for day stuff. If the weather's a little chilly or rainy or something, and that's okay, or I just throw the spats, you know, in the bag just in case I end up needing them. So they'll be they're not like boot coverage, but they're you know, full shoes, not like split in parts sandal sort of thing. So stretch my hands. Okay, have both of those cut. All, and then move on to other knife. Pare it down. Oh wait, you're like, did I just get water in my hand or am I bleeding somehow? And I didn't notice. No, just water. Okay. I don't normally cause myself damage, but yeah. Again, like I said, I've just been noticing like post bruises and cuts lately. I'm like, how am I keep doing this? Just keep not noticing. Yeah, corsets are not the easiest for managing certain styles of things. You have limited range of options. There we go. That's a little better. Quite as far. Okay. Insole. We're not stitching to insole. We're just cementing. So we just need to reduce the bulk around some of the areas. Did just sharpen this, but still. Just a smidge of resistance. Corsets are ornery. There we go. So, but I mean, that's always the way it is with fabrics. It's like I have so many fabrics, none of which are remotely appropriate for the project that I have to do right now. Like, that's just the standard issue with fabric. No matter how much you have, it's not the right one. Pare this down, but I don't want to go too far. Alright. That's way too far for me to toss that, so we're just going to move that a little bit closer by. I'm just going to end up with leather all over the floor. I'm pretty sure any amount of corset is effort. Doesn't matter which type. My neighbors took down part of their fence so they could get all of the construction stuff in for, I think they're pouring cement for patio maybe. I was like, where'd half the fence go? Oh. Hope they're not trampling over too many bushes. At least they're not trampling over mine. So that's the more important part. And the bush that's full of bees is at least like 4 or 5 bushes down from their side, so nobody should be interfering with that. They're happy bees, but you know, still, let's not anger the bush full of bees. Getting their food. Yeah, changing the slant to boning can make such a huge difference in the way that a corset or a pair of stays or something fits. I think we often just assume that boning needs to run in a certain direction because the seams run that way, and it's like, well, it can do more than just keep things from wrinkling. Like, I was going through and looking at 1920s corsets, and a lot of them have horizontal boning down like at the stomach area. And I found somebody's notes that was like, we don't understand why they did this. Seems rather like weird considering boning's supposed to, go vertically. And I was like, well, I mean, if you want flat front, like completely flat front, it makes sense to have flat boning in the area that you're pulling it in, and that would kind of help push back in the stomach, because that's what the goal was then. So, I mean, makes sense to me. I do want to make one with that type of boning to it. I made one for this week's video, but not with any boning in it. I'm just curious about like that technique at this point in time. Does it do what I think it would do? Pretty sure it does. Because all of the advertisements note that's why they put it there. Yeah. I don't often. My favorite method for stays is I just have some large chunks of cardboard that I shove down the front for mock-ups. I like the ones where people do mock-ups for corsets and just like tape, just like painter's tape or something. That makes a lot of sense. Just tape your boning in rather than actually stitching it in. Like, that makes a lot of sense. Inevitability of having TikTok songs just stuck in your head. I mean, I know they're not from TikTok, but when they go popular, they're... Squash together. You want friends, not enemies. Really need to pare this down all the way to the edges, or you can leave some chunk. I don't know. Back up around that. I think I can leave a little bit. A little bit on the side's not a bad thing. Maybe less down on the toe. That's always a problem area. But I don't have to relast this, so I'm not trying to deal with insole problems, the turn shoes where you need it as flattened down as possible. You're calling. Okie dokie. Right there. Hello. Get out of my armpits. Support togetherness. Yeah, I like that. Support togetherness. We're all for support and togetherness. I don't necessarily feel like I need to get this pared way down. Not dealing with It's going to be the side. Yeah, we'll be fine. Right, that's a little thick. Let's fix that spot. Oh man, I love this new knife. This is making my life so much easier. So good. I still have uses for the other two, one of which I will still use a ton of the time. This can't do everything, but like, man, does this work really well. Like, where have you been all my life? Nowhere historical, that's where. Like, is this a historically accurate knife? No. Do I care? No, because it's really easy and comfortable, good to use. I mean, it is historically in existence, just not in Western usage. It's Japanese style. I guess I should specify. For the types of shoes that I normally make, and the time periods I usually work, it would be a little weird. Could be argued, but it'd be a little weird. I'm finding it much more comfortable for the way that I tend to hold things and the way that I work. Everything else, so I'm ready for that. Those are done with the wrong knife. Yeah, I mean, it's just because I show videos of this stuff, so. But I know how to do it without this type of knife. I've just, you know, would prefer to not have to, if I don't have to. Yeah, no. Trying to figure out how to best get the angle I need on these things. Figure out when my camera needs to go. Once I figure out where my camera needs to go, then I'm good for a while, but be a butt. Do a little bit lower. There we go. Okay, I should be able to make that work. Yeah. I mean, I do use some power tool stuff, but not much. Yeah, labor worked very differently when you didn't have nearly as many jobs that aren't labor-based. Ice cream truck! There's a taco truck that sometimes comes around the neighborhood. I haven't heard it in a while. The construction stuff kind of moved down the street, and it seemed to come around like late mornings. Sometimes they come around as early as like 7 a.m. It's like everyone's just packing lunch, I guess. Just getting lunch and then keeping it for later. But, oh yeah, you had unpaid apprentices. Well, I mean, they're paid via room and board and educational process in a weird way, but you know, essentially unpaid. the original interns in many ways. Just actually getting a good education that was more worthwhile. I feel like if your internship also gave you a college degree. Interesting. Heat rash or what? I'm getting spots on me. Okay, that's new. Yes, the Taco Tuck does play music. That's how I know. That's how I know it comes through. It does play music. That's why I love it so much. I'm like, it's a freaking like ice cream taco truck sort of situation. It's amazing. Yeah. Apprentices to do all the stuff you don't want to do, like cleaning up and making threads and doing really basic. I mean, it was also like nice most of the time. Everything got, you had multiple people in each shop doing different things, and you kind of did what you were good at rather than having to do all of the things. So you can keep going. And shops took it upon themselves to make sure that like the employees stayed entertained and like therefore busier, whereas you get distracted more easily. So some places even hired in like musicians to play for their employees to keep them like let's play peppy music. Like the equivalent, 18th century equivalent of turning on the radio sort of thing. Which I always found funny because for a while I worked at a place that was like, no, you're not allowed, like you can listen to music, but we're not allowed to turn music on in the shop. And we're not allowed to talk, and we're not allowed to... It's not a fun place to work, and let me tell you that. We only spent like a year and a half there where I was like, this is painful, we're done. I don't remember exactly what songs it was, but yeah, it was like mariachi band type music. So yeah, it was totally a mariachi, like taco truck. Like, so much joy that I got from that thing driving around it. Like, I never actually managed to catch it, because it wasn't aimed at, like, me. It was aimed at... I live in a construction area with lots of houses, and so it was, like, coming around to aim for all of the people doing the construction work. But man, if I didn't want to just run down the street every single time I heard it and go find it. Because I was like, you know it's gonna have good food. Like, that is some, like, strong audacity otherwise. We went around playing this music. Everyone's going to want to come run to find me. But I'm going to keep moving, so you gotta make it worthwhile. I'm sure it still does, like, come around. It's just probably the next neighborhood over more, because we're nearly done with construction in my neighborhood. Tear down the toe well enough, because that's the one place you don't want to have it look bulky. You don't have to. Especially since you're also going to have the bulk of the actual uppers being covered out, so make sure the toe is nice and reduced. Oh, why the shoes look so skinny? So think about your actual foot. The whole middle of your foot doesn't actually touch the ground. Only that outer wall usually does, unless you're dealing with, like, complete flat-footedness. So you don't need the insole to extend out past where your foot is. This basically, in modern shoes, we have a really wide waist. This is called the waist. And then they put this padding in to build up, versus if I stop the waist there and then the last goes up itself. So it's kind of like building the I think I'll explain. It's kind of like building what would be if this was wider. You'd have to build that up to support the arch there. Instead, the actual shoe supports my arch rather than adding padding in, because my foot doesn't actually touch most of that. Like, it pretty much touches here, maybe a little bit there, and then a bunch in that area. So there's no reason to fill this in if I don't have to. It looks way nicer. It makes your foot look like much skinnier as well. It's deceptive, but it's more flexible. It has a nice line to it. You'll still find that being done on like super high-end like Oxfords and things like that, like men's flatter style shoes. They'll still do that. They'll do a super narrow waist, and they'll usually like do interesting shapes and angles to it. Yeah, I do have narrow feet. They're not, like, I've got this particular last widened up so that way it's me with socks, so it's a little more average. But no, metal shanks, though metal shanks are invented, I think recently, I looked it up and I always forget, and somebody else that I was talking to about this stuff said, like, they started to come in, like, more like the teens, 19 teens, but I didn't really find them commonly for women's heels, until really more like late 20s, early 30s. I have some 30s shoes that definitely have metal shanks, but my 1920s ones with a really high heel are still pasteboard. So they are not at all, they're not done that way. Like, they don't seem to have that really built up metal shank just yet. In reality, this sort of thing is, wrong camera, this sort of thing is what they do instead, and so this will just get carved down and built up. So it's a little bit closer to more like our modern process where we use fiberglass, like that sort of thing. So it's a little bit closer style to that, but the metal shank is just so unforgiving. Yeah, and a lot of the metal shanks that you find patents for in like the 19th century are for flatter style shoes, like work boot sort of things, more so than the like super nice curvy ones, just because 1890s is still super low shoes, so why would you put that in there unless it's a like structural integrity like sort of thing. So most like high heels and things like that, there's just no reason to. You don't necessarily need that. This will do just fine. What else do I need to do? Oh, that's in there. I'll need to take these off. I don't want to if I don't have to just yet. They're still kind of drying and curing. Because I took the one off just to see what happened, and it started to flatten itself back out again. So I would prefer not to, but both double checking the insole and getting the heel cap taken care of, really. So you might replace the shanks of my Tissot with cardboard. Cool. Tissot is to wrap it all up nicely. Tissot is a famous artist from around the 1870s and 80s. But what Constance is referring to is a pair of American Duchess shoes that were named after said artist of that era because they're of that era in styling. So multifaceted. They were one of the first designs that I did, actually. Back when I was contracting. I really need to cover these with Maybe that's what I should do. I should probably, because I keep meaning, now that I'm sure that this fits me really well, I keep meaning to put another layer of really thin leather over it all just to keep it from getting eaten up around the edges like it has been. I should do that. I should do that right now. That would be a very smart thing to do. Ooh, cork and batting. I've got cork for this pair. I finally got cork sheets when I ordered some other stuff. I'm excited about those. So, okay. Let me grab what I need for that. Unfortunately, I can't bend because I have a microphone right there. I also have like the shoe lacerated to bump me in the butt. So let's do this. 'Cause I need to do this. I keep meaning to do this, and I keep not getting around to it. And I've got this not so expensive leather right now that's pretty appropriate, just white glove leather sort of thing. Okay, that should work pretty well. So, it's kind of awkward to do that way then. Maybe. Midnight greetings from Sweden. I have forgotten all of my Swedish all of a sudden. All like 20 words that I ever learned. I remember how to say I speak Swedish. That's all I got. Which is like the least useful thing. The only thing I know how to say in a language. I know how to speak this language. Yeah, talar svenska. Where are my scissors? I can just use these. Abby inspired you to make it 1918 hoop skirt. Cool. Or 1916? Neat. Actually, no. I learned a little bit from Abby. Abby does speak Swedish. But it's one of those like, it's been a while. I'm very out of practice on that. I know, very out of practice on my French. Trying to learn German. I'm working on it. Oh. Yeah. And thankfully, like, English is pretty similar to English in like a lot of languages, so. But a few phrases you should always learn when going to a foreign country. I don't speak this. Do you speak this? And where is this? Plus things like right, left, da-da-da-da. Like, especially if you're going to be doing stuff traveling around by train, knowing the basic terminology you're likely to encounter there. Even just, like, that was one of the first things I learned when I was in Germany. The first time was, all right, very quickly I have to learn right and left because I have to know which side of the train to get off on. Because, heaven forbid, I'm not 100% fully prepared for that. I will get the worst looks from everyone. Like, you have dared to insult. Dare you? not understand which side you're supposed to be prepared to get off on. Yeah, definitely don't insult the food either, but I don't speak this. I'm a stupid American. Yeah. Yeah. I minored in French, so I at least know enough to get by fairly well. But still, like I said, just out of practice. I have not spoken much. I've read plenty, so I can still read it fairly easily, but that's different from speaking it. She probably was just around somebody. I don't know, maybe she was caught on the television. Who knows? Kids pick up languages so easily. Like a few hours daycare or school and TV, Dora the Explorer, and you're set to go, man. Why do I only put leather on the front of the last? Because this, theoretically, I ideally wouldn't be putting leather around any part of the last. It would just fit me. This is built up there to widen it out to fit me better. I made these last myself and they're not perfect. This was me just trying to learn how best to do this style. Which is like cool and all, but they fit fine, but they fit fine as like evening shoes with like really thin stockings, but I knew I was going to want to wear these with socks, and I needed to make a pair of boots off of them that fit a little bit less tightly, etc., etc. So I went ahead and added that so that way they would mimic the shape that I wanted from the boots better, and also be more comfortable in terms of wearing with heavier socks. So your heel doesn't get bigger, but your front of your foot definitely does. Yeah, languages are very much, use it or lose it sort of situations, so unfortunately. I'll stretch this down and get it into place. So it's just building up space, but yeah. Pair of 30 shoes, I don't know. Not at least till next year. I mean, the 20 shoes that I'm working on now are not terribly different than 1930s shoes, but I don't really have a particular reason to do 30s right now. I do want to trim that down slightly now that I'm looking at this. So that way I'm not overdoing the quantity of barge that I'm applying on this. I do not need that much. There we go, that's better. I mean, I could do 30s on the cruise. I've done a lot of 30s in the past, and I'm just like, on it right now, so. Not feeling the 30s as much as I'm feeling the 20s. It's just my personal place in life, so. Therefore, it will be more 20s, because that's what I feel like doing. I tried to convince Abby to do more 30s, because that would have been easier for her, but we gave her. She was determined to do teens. I can't really fault her too much. Pretty good era. Okay. Actually, before I do that, it'd be logical if I trace this out before I mess it up. Oh no! The last barge cement I had to replace because it just froze up. Like, after a long enough time, it stops being usable. You know. Like, I feel bad. I'm like, I'm wasting leather. I'm like, no, not really. I don't... This isn't really that good of a leather. It's pretty much why I only use it for this, and, like, I used it on my gloves, I guess. But it's not expensive stuff. I'm pretty sure it's chrome tanned. Do that in a moment. What's particular about 1920s shoes? Well, they change a lot over the decade, but they're going to be the most, to our modern eyes, familiar to us. Like, they've reached a point where they look like modern shoes. We're no longer looking at them going, oh, those look Victorian or whatever. So they'll have heels that look familiar in terms of heel heights and shapes like that. A lot of men's shoes are just the very typical, like, Oxford styles and things like that sort of. It's what we've standardized into nice leather men's shoes. It's also when we start introducing the, like, what we think of for women's evening shoes being kind of sandal-like. That's when that comes in. There are also plenty of walking shoes and walking boots. Lace-up boots are becoming less and less common in this era, and they're coming up with other options that are like unfitted boots, you know, loose, slouchier things, booties, as it were. So there's just, it's sort of the, really where modern shoe styles for like the 20th century really take off. There's a lot of weird experimentation. So it's fun. Yeah, it's just fun. So, Chopins are elevated shoes, so they'll have like something like yay tall, like anywhere 4 to 8 inches, and some of them are even larger. It's just a big cork piece that's usually wrapped in leather or fabric that you're up on. So those are 16th century, more so than anything else. So yeah, that's a classic shoes. Very great. They can sometimes be as overshoes a lot. Sometimes they're more like actual shoe-ish, but so patents are the ones that are on metal rings, where you have like a wooden panel that sort of, and usually like a piece that goes, I have it right here. So wooden panel underneath, and you'll have like a piece of like leather that ties over the top, and then it's up on a metal ring. So that's technically, by 18th century terminology, is what a patent is, or patent, versus an overshoe, which is not elevated. It might have like a cork. It usually has like a cork filler underneath the arch of the foot, so that way it encompasses the whole shoe, heel and all. In terms of being underneath of it, so it's kind of like, you know, platform shoe, sort of clog style sort of look, but it doesn't elevate you overall. Like, the front is still only the thickness of the sole leather. So yeah, so Chopins are just a specific era thing with, like I said, the big giant cork block on your foot. Patents are metal ring, and overshoes are not lifted up on a metal ring. And there's one other. Clogs. Sometimes they use clogs kind of like overshoes in terms of terminology, but more often clogs refer to the wooden, full wooden shoes. I spent a lot of time translating all that stuff. Like, great deal of time thinking about it. So. Yes, the height of their Chopins. Yeah, it's funny because there's a 18th century shoemaking book that's translated from French that someone I know. I barely know the guy. Like, we have a lot of people in common, but I don't really get to know him very well. A lot of reasons. And he translated it all differently, and I disagree with him. Like, no. Alright, this should theoretically be helpful. Okay. Close that up. Galoshes. Yes, thank you. Galoshes is the other word. The difference between... Yeah, I mean, galoshes obviously gets more commonly used in later. So the galoshes that we think of for later, yes, are the rubberized overshoes. Galosh in the 18th century, I think, is one of the other terms that did sometimes come up, which seemed to be less coverage-based overshoe. Seemed to be what I generally got, but I think the better examples are the ones, like there's some from the 1790s where they literally just, or early 19th century, where they fit over the front and then have like an elastic loop to go around the heel and the back. But, what, did I hear a Bailey? I did hear a Bailey! Hello! Ooh, I am extra crunchy today. Okay. That's that one. Can't really set this down right now. I'm just gonna sit here holding this. Derp derp. It was dry as the fan came on, so though it's a little bit louder now, it should dry really fast. So yeah, the terminology is weird, and I do very much feel like, yes, it will vary, like, place to place, language to language, era to era, and how to translate those things gets really weird and confusing. But at least definitively, through all the research I did, the overshoe is the the type of thing that I made years ago. Oh, you bobbed your hair, cool! Mine's kind of at that length. Like, I've been playing around with whether I want it more layered or less layered, so I've been going back and forth, trying to decide whether I want bangs, straight bangs, feathered, like right now, it's a very layered and, like, feathered out sort of bang thing, and so I'm trying that out and seeing what works or what doesn't work for different hairstyles. I get people that ask me all the time, like, how do you do your hair? It's like, it just, how does it do itself? Like, I mean, I have curl patterns that I use for things, but it really changes so dramatically based off the haircut. So that's what I'm having fun with. How many different ways can I cut my hair? And try that out. Dutch Bob for the cruise. I might end up doing something. I don't know. I've also got to figure out a better chemical based, like, what sort of products to put in my hair to keep it from falling flat with humidity. Because being able to play around with things here is definitely dramatically different than someplace that has rain and humidity. But I'm gonna try some stuff in the near future to see what I can manage. But I think it'll just end up being a lot of waves. So, but for right now, it's super layered just because I wanted to see what happened, because I was getting annoyed with some of the way that things were working down there. But I also knew that overall, lengthwise, it's a little bit longer than I want. So I will probably get it shortened up a fair bit when I go in the next time overall and get rid of some of the layers, because I think it's a little bit more layering than I want. But I don't know. It's hard to say. Right now I'm just struggling with my bangs and all that stuff more than anything. Yeah, my hair doesn't really do anything. It will stop holding so much curl when it gets humid. So it'll just kind of over the day. But, alright, I think we're good. Just be very judicious with how I'm placing this. What? No, I cannot help you. You, ma'am, should be just fine. At least with this, I can kind of unstick some of it a little bit. Like, not a ton, but enough. And then I can give a little bit of added manipulation to it. This stuff's really stretchy too, thankfully. And then I will take my little gum eraser to the leftovers. If I can find it, it's somewhere. Cut your hair in the French bob style. Cut your hair with really more skill than a lot of their powders are. Just magically perfect. Yeah, I haven't had hair longer than here in my living memory. I may have at some point. I don't actually have any memory like of having it longer than, and that's rare for me to have it that long. Bailey, hey, itchy butt. Why are you so itchy all of a sudden? I don't know. Sounds like a you problem, man. I know. Yeah, I know. I will. I promise to pay attention to you soon. Maybe. We'll figure that out. You just need to get one of those awesome metallic flapper wigs. I am planning for the trip to also take a wig with it really super duper set in a really nice 1920s like style for evening, so that way I'm like, I don't have to have the fear of, oh no, my hair kind of collapsed today and it's not going to look good with this evening gown and now I got to restyle it and like, or urgent stuff. Basically just making sure that I've got what I need, no matter what the situation. Like, why am I having trouble with this? Oh, boards on my... So, yeah, I'm planning on having backup hair, as it were, because I can get that set with really tight finger waves and curls and like super organized, and like I said, then I'm good just in case. And it takes the stress away. Like, I prefer not to wear a wig, comfort-wise, but it's there if I need it. At the very least, it's there for photo shoots or whatever. That's what's important. The majority of the time I will not, but wear the wig. So I'd rather my own hair work. I've managed extensions like pretty blended, even my really short stuff, but I mean, yeah, you can do some really fun colors of wigs. Maybe I should look into doing one of those metallic 1920s wigs. That would be really fun for one of the evening events. Making one of those up. I'm sure somebody sells something like that now. I can't imagine it doesn't exist somewhere out there. Maybe not in the same quality as the originals, but guarantee somebody somewhere does this. I mean, I'm sure Arda probably does. It sounds like something they would have. Tacos or burritos for dinner. Yeah, it's like a tinsel sort of thing, so I should look for that. That'd be fun. A metallic gold wig or something for one of the evenings. The question is, which theme do I do it for? Or silver, depending which night it is. Oh yeah, tinsel. What? Do you need to go out? Is that what you're throwing a fit about? Tell you what, you help me find this thing and we'll talk. I feel like it should be in here. Things in one box. Aha, there we go. Hence why I am slowly moving things into these drawers next to me that I now have. And part of the point of that will be that I can then clean out my box, my shoemaking box, and then actually get it started up again with what it actually needs in there. Video. Yeah, I mean, it'd be fun to do. Like I said, I get a lot of questions about hair stuff. I could definitely do a little, maybe not as in-depth video on styling the wig, styling my hair, styling a couple different wigs, and talking about the different process. I have no idea how one would set a metallic wig, though. But theoretically, if you're at some place like Arda, they'll give you instructions. So it's already like dangerous enough to use heat. Like heat on most wigs. I'm like, I feel like there should be even more concern there. We'll go downstairs here in just a minute. We'll get you. I don't know why you would need to go out. You went out just before I came upstairs like an hour ago. I haven't been here that long. Interesting. I mean, you definitely would recommend trying different types of hair dyes. Some will sit better than others. Have somebody that's willing to do test strands. It's like toners versus dyes that are meant to go over gray hair, or like stuff that fights back. See, looks much nicer. Oh, hello. Did you finally decide to settle down? Okay. Let's pare this down a little bit. I'm wondering how far they're going to get on this neighbor's patio in one day. The neighbor had already cleared all the rocks out of the way, and they went in with a jackhammer this morning, broke up the ground, which made me feel very self-righteous and like proud of myself, because we didn't have a jackhammer. We did it by hand with a mattock. Like, I feel very strong right now. If they're coming in with jackhammers to break up the ground here, it's so hard. Like, that's how bad it is here, folks. Ooh. We do not have friendly ground. No friendly dirt here. Just angry rock. So, it's like, oh, okay. Well, I feel justified. I'm really curious to see how my hair grays out. Like, right now I've got a nice arrangement and smattering. Like, it's pretty even, but it's not very much of, like, white hairs. I don't know who I'm going to take after in the family in terms of how I'm going to get my grays and all of that. Not that I think anybody had like awkward period, but I also didn't know my grandparents until they were gray, so I only have so much information to go off of there. Like, I have some older pictures and videos of them, but, you know, it's kind of hard to judge from, like, 1970s pictures. Too flat of a base. That's okay. Getting there. I know, but they keep turning on the temperature up here, but it's still so warm. You have a good evening as well. Yeah, I'm used to more like a mud-based ground. I've always lived in places with plenty of moisture and easy ground to break up and deal with. Like, sometimes heavy, sometimes clay-based, sometimes mud. But, you know, certainly something you could stick a shovel into. This literally will not accept a shovel. Like, it is not. Just won't. It just won't. Like, I'm finally getting to a point where I can dig holes with a shovel in some parts of my yard, but those are the parts where I've had plants for the last couple years, and they've kind of broken up the soil, and I put down some mulch before I put down the rock to, again, help break up the soil and all of that. So it's as bad as the Virginia clay that I dealt with the fact that it's like basically dried out and compacted and had years of things running over it, not just construction equipment, but it used to be like ranch space, so animals and vehicles and all sorts of things. Centuries of horses just roaming, packing it down and packing it down and packing it down. Yeah. Yep. Oh, not the easiest. Yeah, we had to literally go get essentially a pickaxe in order to dig anything in. That was how the entire yard was done. Because that was the best I could do. It's not fun. Oh, that looks nice. That's much smoother. Okay. Now... wrong one. Let's do this. Nail that down here shortly. Go ahead and do the nail of the toe area because it doesn't go that far. Open up, box. Open up. There we go. Like, I don't want to. I've got big sleeves right now. It's danger. Okay, let's flip you over. What I was trying to avoid doing. Right. Had too many that fell through the crack. Too many. Oh, the air's on again. It's too hot, but it's also really loud. Alright, don't stab self with thing. Tacks are sharp. Okay, tack 1. Cool. Oh, 10-foot run. Yeah, I can imagine that is not fun. Go ahead and start with this back here. And we'll remove that shortly. Gotta put on the other thing. Bailey. Itchy puppy. I'm trying to not make this end up being a drawer full of tacks, but it's got other ideas. It's like, oh, you have a fresh drawer that's all nice and clean? Let me fill it with tacks. Like, no. Do not. Do not do that. Let's not do that. The toe on that is too long. That is easy to fix. Thankfully. Here we go. Okay, so that's on there. Now let's grab you. The attack. Oh, that'd be fun. I've got a few, I think, 1930s last from, like, roughly around then. At least it very much seems like they are. It gets kind of wonky to tell, but they have the right shape of peep toe and everything like that, so. Tape the front down again, because that's hard to do otherwise. Almost reached it. My only complaint with this bench so far is that the cushion on it is not remotely, like, stably on it. So it just scoots around so easily, so I just have to be careful of not ending up, like, falling off of the bench, because I scooted too fast. Yeah. Okay. There we go. Cool. That's that started. I don't think I'm gonna have to do too much paring down on this. I could definitely make it, like, thicker, but I don't know what to have to. Right. I will have to trim down around the edge, though. It sticks out too far. Modern repros and vintage antiques. I could do, yeah, I'll do one of the last in the future. I need to get some more. Like, I've got a number of good options, but I really would like to have, I keep putting it on my list to get more last. There are so many eras that I just don't have examples from, and I really wish I did, and they're hard to find. Most of the antique lasts out there are just certain, like, mid-19th, there's a lot of mid-19th century, like 1860s, 70s. There's a lot of early 20th century. And I'm, like, I've never come across the 1890s, which has been very disappointing, because that's one of the eras I really want to see, like, get an original in my hands for a while. Same thing, there's just so many different time periods that I just haven't had a chance to really spend time with like I want to. So, 'tis on my list to collect more of them. Thankfully, they don't tend to be too expensive. But the ones that aren't expensive are just usually the same style over and over again. Not getting me quite what I'm looking for. Maybe alright. Just a knife for this. Yeah. Definitely. Like, I really, yeah, like, 1890 is just such a weird, like, I mean, I can tell what it is. I can retroactively figure out what it's supposed to look like based off of, the shoes, but there's always, like, some things that are a little hard to figure out and judge. That, it's better to have an original at some point in your hands. So. I'm always looking for better range of antique shoe lasts. I regularly am on Etsy and eBay just constantly. Like, antique wood shoe last. For a long time, I used to actually, let's go too far, set up with, like, it emailed me, like, every day. Here's what got posted for that. But so much of it is just junk. I got tired of looking at nothing of value every single day. It's pretty much good enough. Don't need to pare it down too much. I did a pretty good job on keeping it hopefully even the whole way. So I'll spend a bunch of time on something that isn't going to get you very far. And make a mess while doing it. Except my floor wasn't always a mess already. It's the one downside of being up here. Now it's carpet. Oh, yeah. It's just because there's so many shoe lasts out there. And a lot of times they're just single ones. And they're like, let's make it artistic. It's like, no, please stop. Although like I said, most of them are not remotely of value. And the fact that there's just hundreds and thousands of exactly the same style out there. So I can't really begrudge anyone making it something that they consider useful. It's just more annoying when they, of course, don't know what they're looking at and do it to actual, like, truthfully antique things. Where you're like, no, that was actually... Why? Why did you do that? So... Just pulling apart as I go. The ones that bother me more are when they have a pair and they turn them into bookends. That just baffles me. I'm like, but... Because it's obviously not necessarily destroying an antique, because it's not usually actually destroying anything, but it's potentially damaging an antique object that had a use for... that, isn't often used for that anymore. For something that is also in many ways kind of antiquated because so many people don't have spaces where they put bookends. Like, they might have a bookshelf or something, but how many people use bookends anymore? Like, I have some antique ones, but quite frankly, I feel like the concept of bookends in itself is a little bit antiquated. So, like, we're taking one antiquated system and turning it into another antiquated system, and I'm just so confused by it. Oh man, clogs are complicated. Yeah, like I wouldn't even know where to begin with clogs. Like that is some specialty stuff right there. Understandably, they're like, if you want to, like, I can't help you. So that is beyond my power. Clog making is a very specialized trade, and always has been. Completely separate from shoemaking. You need a draw bench for that stuff, even, and I don't even have a draw bench. It would make, like, if I was trying to do heels and lasts historically accurately, I would really need a draw bench for my sanity. I did it for years, as historically accurately as I could, like with, not accurately, but with like tools that are appropriate to the era, and yeah, it was not fun. I no longer make heels or lasts like that, because it just, I need my life to, you know, lost too many hours and days and too many blisters to that over the years. It's like, nope, we're done with that. We're not. Let's not do that ever again. But yeah, clogs are very complicated. Like you said, carving out that inside definitely requires very specialized tools for that to some extent. So a lot, you can do a fair amount with an axe, but again, if you're like dealing with kids wanting to make stuff, like even teenagers, I'm not like kids, but like anybody who's not an expert already in wood making, like, no, you'll hurt yourself and possibly 3 other people in the process. Let's not do that today. Why are you cutting down so much? You're being ornery. Stop it. I'm not cutting evenly, and I'm getting annoyed with it. It's because the cement over the edge is just enough that it's catching the blade as I go. I'm fighting back and then jumping it, like, yeah, repeatedly. Alright, a little bit better. A little bit better. I definitely would have been the kid that wanted to do stuff like that at age 11 or 12. I got told, no, we can't do that a lot. Which I think is why I do stuff like this now. Because I was never told, no, you can't do that. No, you're not allowed to do that or something. I was always told, oh, wow, that's, yeah, I can't show you how, that's too complicated. I cannot help you with that. Like, cool if you want to make that like your life's work or whatever, but that's beyond my skills. And whenever I heard that, I then went and learned how to do things. So I'm like, I feel like, because you get that like, oh yeah, I was incentivized because this person told me I could never be an actor, and now I'm an actor. So like, screw you, Mrs. Whatever. You'll never amount to anything. But for me, it was definitely the, oh no, that is beyond the capabilities of the average person. A random adult cannot teach you that. I was like, oh, okay. So I think that's possibly, now that I'm thinking about it, where that picks up a lot for me. Imagining things and being told that we can't just do it like it's in my head. I know at some point I was like, I would like to make shoes, and I looked into it and was like, oh, that's complicated. Oh. I will eventually learn how to do that. Clean up on the edge of this with scissors. That's you. Yeah, my mother was very much the, oh, well, I don't know how to do that, but let's see if we can do something like simpler version, or she is a very craft-based person, so she understands how to do things, and she understands limitations of how to do things. Like, we don't have the tools to do that. But if that's something you're interested in the future, we can, like, look into that. But, usually it was very much like, oh, I want to do this for a project for school, therefore it's got a time limit, therefore, oh, no, we can't do it in that amount of time. But, practical. She never would have set me on a project that wasn't at all feasible. Like, there definitely were difficult things, but difficult is different from, like, oh, no, you can't just do that. You can't just up and do that. That's not how that works. Like, oh, you want to outfit everybody in your presentation group in 1940s clothing to talk about World War II next week? Oh, no. And rather than being like, well, we can make a few accessories, my mother's like, because I wanted it to not just be that I wanted to talk about the fashion. This was like 5th grade or something. I was like, I want to talk about the fashion. Therefore, I need to actually show some of the stuff. And she's like, well, but everybody in the group needed to be involved in it in some way. So all parts of the project needed to involve everybody to some extent, even if we were the one guiding one section of the cultural history. And so my mother's decision on that was to get a whole bunch of large sheets of like craft paper sort of thing, like heavier stock paper, and we made suits and tops and things like that out of paper and taped it all together, because she's like, I'm not teaching like 5 kids how to sew. Like, I knew how to, but they didn't. And she's like, we're not doing that. I'm like, damn. Okay. I have no idea how those things turned out. I highly doubt that they lasted much longer than like half of the presentation, because I can't imagine that they were terribly, they just were not going to hold up. But that's okay. I've made a mess. Whee! Yeah, there's a lot of stuff where it's like, and my parents very much encouraged you're interested in something, let's see if there's a class. So I took a lot of classes on things. So that way I didn't have to like full-time my way through it. Like, oh, that was a week or multiple weeks or whatever it was of that one thing. Cool. I'm good now. So I learned how to do a lot of weird stuff as a kid. Which has all been weirdly useful too, but still. My dad was not nearly as hands-on, crafty, so learn English just to look stuff up on the internet, man. I wish the internet, like what we have now, was around when I was younger. That would have made things a lot easier. I remember, not the first thing I ever looked up on the internet, but pretty close to it. I think I was doing a science fair project in like 4th or 5th grade. And there really was not much on the internet, so I hadn't really spent time there because there wasn't much back in like 94, 95. So realized that I was basically able to find some of the same stuff I could in the library in terms of consumer report stuff, because I was trying to look up stuff to do with like popcorn companies and preferred things, so managed to find a decent amount of basically like tests and things that people had done and information about products, and like basically it was just, I think the only stuff I could really find on there at the time that was usable to me were just like scientific studies and whatnot. Like, for whatever reason, I don't know why, that was what was on there that far back. I'm gonna probably regret this when I go to pull the tape off, but whatever. I'll curve it down a little bit more. Yeah, I did a lot of weird stuff. Tried a lot of different hobbies. And I was decent enough at most of them, but they weren't necessarily something I always wanted to continue with. There's a difference between being like, oh, well, that was interesting. All right, moving on. It's not what I want to do for the rest of my life. Let's find the next. Like, I am good at violin. I don't think that's what I want to do. I'm not really enjoying the practicing portion. Or horseback riding. Cool, but, you know, allergies. Also, I just moved to a place where I can't do horseback riding lessons, so I guess unless we get a horse, and I don't think that's going to happen, I don't think this is going to continue. Though at that point I kind of regretted not keeping with violin, because I, like, gave up violin so I could do other stuff, but then I moved, like, a couple years later, and I was like, oh, there's not much I could keep going. Like, none of the things that I was doing were available in a new place. Like, violin would have been one of the only things I could have actually kept up with. Okay, we're getting there. Looks kind of a janky mess right now, but it's working. Just making sure that those things dry to shape. So that way it'll be good to go tomorrow. I need to also go get my cap for that. Tape shoe. I need to get the same. I need to ask Vicky where she got her strap from. Because, like, I've seen a number of people doing shoemaking that just have these, like, big rubber band strap things that they wrap around. They kind of stick to themselves. I'm like, man, that'd be easier. I should get those. But I don't even know where to start with the, like, terminology for that. And none of the places I get shoemaking stuff from sell it, so it's one of those, like, not specific to shoemaking things. Oh. But for now, masking tape. Masking tape does many things. You wanted to do beadwork on engineering degree, now you do beadwork more. Yeah. My mother used to always tell me, you should get a business degree. Especially when I was looking at starting to do, like, my own business stuff. This was way back, like, right out of college. She's like, you should get a business degree, da-da-da-da, because I was starting to operate my own business at that time and all those sorts of things, and, like, looking back now, she's like, I'm glad you didn't listen to me, because that would have been useless. I'm like, yep. Because that was when the economy crashed, and, like, everything changed. And it would have been so utterly pointless for me to try and go to grad school at that time. I'm just amused by that. Like, I'm glad you didn't do that. Me too. My mother's a very pragmatic person. Like, she's pretty good at, like, seeing the world as it is sort of situation, so thankfully. Oh, lapels, man. They seem so simple. They are difficult. Like, I spent so much time making my tailcoat, and just one side of the lapel, just kind of, the very corner just goes bleep. Like, like, I have spent so much time on this. The other one sits beautifully, but no. Okay. Next set of pasting down. And And then the other last will be ready to go. Probably also take the opportunity while this is drying to go get more water and something to eat. Oh, it's already 4:30. Oh my goodness. Where did my afternoon go, huh? Disappeared again. Crafty. Time is so crafty. Sneaks away. Or it just awkwardly stands there staring at you when you really want to be left alone. I haven't decided if I'm going to send these off to be copied, or if I'm going to make a new one based off of these. And I think I'm going to make a new one based off of these. Send off. So that way it's... because I only need to make one. They don't need two. And then I don't have to worry about the weirdness that I've got with the leather and everything. I can keep this as a matching pair. I can continue to use even after I get the new ones, where I can pull the leather off and have a slightly smaller sized one if I need it, I guess. But yeah, I need to do that and then make up like 3 different styles of heels. Like I think I'm gonna do a like 1900, like 1910, 1920 sort of range, and styles and heights, and get those reproduced as well to go with this last. Okay. Hooray! The glue will come off later on. If I need to. Yes. This is turning like an awkward green color. I don't know. It just looks like snot in person. But, I mean, if I had to pull this off, yeah. Yeah, I mean, most lasts are actually plastic nowadays. They take a big block of a specific type of plastic, and then they like CNC router sort of thing. But I know a place in Mexico that does them in wood as well. That's where all of my all the ones that I didn't personally make, though the one set is based off of a last that I made, sent to them to have it copied. They just have minimums, and you have to do a full run. They're not super tiny on minimums, though. But if I am doing that, I'm sending off like 2 or 3 styles, which would be ideal to do at the same time, like all of that. Then I'd probably also figure out a way to open it up as like a pre-order type situation for people to order, and get a few extras as well, because I know people would want some. So I'd probably get the flat ones redone at the same time, because I've already got those. That would be easy. I need to send some off to them. It's like I need a better 18th century last. Like, I don't mind the one that I've got, but I feel like I can do better now. That one was not my design. But I'm hoping to do like a very late 17th century last in the near future. I'm going to do a couple others from 17th century eventually as well, but I'm hoping to do like right at the turn of the century, style, as well as I've already got 1860s, but I don't want to send that one off. Those are as they are, and would like to keep those for my thesis. But if I do just a range of like flat with square toe, where again, like I tell people, it's if it's straight last flat with square toe, you can grind down to a I am still going, grind down to a rounded toe, and then do like a I'd like to do 1890s, and then the one that just this one, which is really good for a lot of different. It's good for like 20, 30 years, honestly. Okay, I'm going to pause, head downstairs, get more water, and get food as well of some type. I don't know what yet. I don't know what I have. So I'll be right back. Carefully reaching over the things for the glue. Okie dokie. I also brought cookies. My cookies, not Bailey's cookies. So I might give you a little bit. It's ginger, so it should be okay. I have like background music from Donkey Kong in my head. This is very weird. I don't know why. Like out of nowhere. Okay. Nice and no longer sticky. Clip gets stuck in my teeth. Oh man, they have a whole channel of those. I love them so much. My friends and I send those back and forth to each other. He is a chihuahua. So she keeps sending him those whenever they come up with new ones. Like, this is your sip. Oh yeah, like fortunately with this like leather and stuff, it's adjustable to some extent, but yeah, it is a little like, oh no, I might mess this up all the time. Like I'm definitely off on this. I am debating just trying to pull it all up and move it, but I'm like, yeah, also it's stretchy. So let's just see how far back it wants. It's willing to take me before it starts to fight, and then it's fine. That's why it's stretchy. It's fine. Bailey, for goodness sakes, stop chewing. Okay, good enough. So I can close this a little bit further so I can reach trash can a little bit easier. I can push out all the edges, not all of which are going to hold, but most of which will. You have retrieved your food, good. I forced Bailey to go outside for a few seconds so I don't have to worry about that, and then grabbed more water and some food. By food, I mean cookies, because it's not quite dinner time yet. Okay. That's much better. Let's trim this up just slightly around the edges to even it a bit. I'm doing the stupid thing again. I was like, why is this uncomfortable? Oh yeah. So I got my feet like on a pillow down here, so that way they're elevated slightly. Making it work. I was hoping this bench would be a little bit lower than it ended up being, but it's okay. It's not too bad. It's better than what I had before. It's better than the sofa that I had up here. Which did not fit in the space. It was definitely too deep, too tall, and also ended up just setting all of my objects next to me on the sofa, which is maybe not the safest thing to do, and a lot of them are, you know, very willing to stab you. So, like, it's probably for the better if I have something that's got, like, a, you know, space for a side table sort of situation or something. Like, oh, hey, this one's got one built in. This is literally a shoemaking bench. Like, this bench is very much, without them calling it a shoemaking bench. I'm like, you guys saw a shoemaking bench when you just designed it off of that, didn't you? Yeah, you did. Yeah, you did. And you're cheaper than the actual shoemaker's benches. Okay, cool. Like, I'm sure I could get an antique one for less, but then you gotta, like, go get it. Or be near it, and I'm like, no. I don't really live near very much, so. It's like, being honest, half the year I won't travel through the pass because it's snow, and the other half I don't want to travel through the pass because it might be on fire by the time I come back. I've only driven that direction once. Which sounds weird, but there were flights involved, so I didn't need to come back again. Only one direction. Well, thanks for hanging out. Yeah, like, because it's kind of hard to see, but there's two drawers over here. Like, this is a little, here actually, let's see if I do that. So this, yeah, has like a little seat space here, and then two drawers, and then the flat surface up here. So it's the perfect shoemaking space, because it's literally a shoemaker's bench. So bright outside. Well, okay, so that's good enough for right now. I need to, I'll go ahead and trim this up slightly. But yeah, I wasn't looking for a shoemaking bench. I was looking for a number of different things because I wasn't expecting to find one. And West Elm, of all places, I was like, West Elm, that's a shoemaker's bench. That's okay. Oh, okay then, I'm getting that. Like, thought about it for a little while and kept thinking about it. I was like, no, that's literally, I don't know how I would ever come up with something that would do better than this for what I need. So, cool. I'm just gonna get that. Because I haven't really bought furniture for my sewing space, like studio or anything like that, in a very long time. Aside from the chair that I just got because of all the streaming that I do. But I've tried to, like, make do with things for years. So the thing that's usually behind me, all the white shelves, that was actually a entertainment unit that we bought back when we lived in Williamsburg. So that has, like, a TV thing that's meant to go in the middle. That is still what the TV is on. The two sewing tables, one of which was my mother's, and the other was a, like, I think graduation gift from my mother, along with a sewing machine or something. I don't know. There was a sewing machine. I guess, no, because I already had a sewing machine when I was in college, but we switched. She gave me the fancier one later. She's like, you'll use this more, which is not untrue. So those were from, like, 2007. I guess the desk chair, I did purchase when I was still living in Nebraska, because I was sitting at the desk doing my thesis. I was like, I need a better chair. Which has since replaced my regular little sewing chair, which is no longer good. But that was purchased with great intent of it being a desk chair. So now it does many other things. The table that's my work table is an antique drafting table I got when I was in Virginia for really cheap. I used to use an old, used to use Prior to that, I had a dining table from Target that we purchased for our first apartment that was like taller than average height. Like it was meant to be more like not countertop height, but that like bar stool height. So that's what I used for my cutting table for years. But when I moved here, I didn't have enough room for both of the tables. So I went to just the antique one. Because, you know, I really don't care if I throw out the Target one. I was going to get rid of the antique one. Because it can also adjust heights. So it's at the height that it needs to be. So yeah, the only stuff that I've purchased has been in the last couple months, which was the chair that is at like office chair at a taller height to sit at my taller table height sitting, you know, place. And I got a tiny little IKEA shelf and to extend the table, and I got this bench. This is really the biggest this bench is really the biggest investment I've made in a long time. Everything else was purchased like in Williamsburg when I first, way back when, started really doing this stuff seriously and had space for it. So, like 10 years ago or more. So, like I feel kind of justified at this point. I'm definitely gonna keep doing this. Yeah, there's definitely, like, furniture is one of those things that is relatively cheap in terms of antiques. Especially stuff that's, like, larger or awkward in some way. It just doesn't always fit into modern spaces very well. Like, size-wise, not style-wise. Up that toe a little bit because I definitely noticed that was too long on the other version, the other one, so it's a little long on this one too. Not too bad though. Forgetting it's Friday. No concept of what day it is anymore, it feels like. Yeah. I've tried to do some paperwork with this. It's not very sharp anymore. That to the side to fix that. Yeah, man. I wish I had, like, I wish I had the space and all that to do the giant tables. That's definitely on the list, because it was one thing when it was like, oh yeah, this is my hobby, you know, it's kind of part of my job, but whatever, I'll make it work sort of thing. And now I'm like, this is 100% full-time, all the thing that I do, so I should probably invest in good stuff. And hopefully some point. Yeah, I'm just gonna chalk up that way first to start with. It'll be good enough for right now. Come back and do more to it later. Once I'm sure I'm ready for... Once I'm sure that I'm getting to a point where I actually need it really sharp. Shoes are coming along nicely. I am about ready to film a little bit of this just so I don't completely stop filming anything. I don't like having that there. We're gonna move you over here. I like having my trash can on camera because it just starts to look messy. Okay. Put that up right now. Someone need to sharpen a knife. Sounded very weird in the sense of like it sounded like you were asking a small child, does someone need to sharpen a knife? I was like, oh, does someone need to sharpen their knife? And I was like, why are you asking so sweetly? That's more concerning. It's actually slightly creepier that way. Oh, man. Makes me think of the really weird tea gown that Abby has that's like very, it's child-sized. It looks like something only like Wednesday Addams in like the 1880s would actually wear. Like, what sort of child would wear this? Oh my gosh, this is a terrifying child. Still making a mess, but this is a little bit easier. Probably should just be like sanding this down instead of cutting it or something, but find the right angle for this. Like, this part is not terribly important, so I'm not too worried about the filming on this, but yeah. Wednesday Addams gown, so good. So small, so good. Yay, I filmed things today. I feel like this just exemplifies how much time is spent doing all of these things and how little time is actually spent filming. It's like I only need usually like a few seconds of film. I like to say, like, out of all the stitches that I do, each type of stitch or each section of stitching that I do, I will usually, if I'm doing it by hand, end up showing people 3 stitches on average. Sometimes it's 4, sometimes it's 2. But 3 stitches on average. And like when you think about how many stitches go into a garment, and in each section, like doing a, hem even, and I'm going to show 3 of them. Like, oh, okay. Well then. What I want to happen, and YouTube said something like in a questionnaire recently, which has made me kind of wonder if it's going to happen, because it'd be great if it did. Like, YouTube, please, dear God, do this. Would be setting up, being able to upload to YouTube and set it up as an independent course material, so where people would pay, I don't know if it's a rent or pay for permanently situation. Like, obviously this is something they clearly are just thinking about, based off the questionnaire. But, like, that sort of thing, where I could be like, oh, here's the half-hour, video that I did where I talk about the history behind the thing, and I kind of showed you some of the, like, nice aesthetic shots and talked about some of the stuff I learned while doing it. Very, like, oh, let's hang out and chit-chat and da-da-da. And if you want to know exactly how to do this, here's the 3-hour version that I voiced over where I showed you, like, a lot. like a lot more steps, a lot more in betweens, and like I would love to be able to do that in a very easy, direct way. That'd be so nice. Like, that's exactly what I want, because, like, I really love the ability, you know, for people to be able to pay monthly for things like that, but I honestly, it takes so much pressure off of me to do it as single coursework. Because then it wouldn't be I have to put it out all the time. It can just be when I have time, and I don't have to worry like, oh no, I didn't put anything out this month. Like, I definitely would still continue Patreon in some sense, but I think it would adjust slightly what I'm doing on what area. Like, still continue to do lives and chat space, like, more, yeah, come ask me questions at any time of the day versus whatever. But yeah, I think that'd be really a good way, a very effective additional tool to what I already do. So. Oh. Yeah, because I think people would definitely be much more willing to buy individual classes when that's exactly what I need right now, versus that. I think it's the apron. It depends on which part. So this lower part is pretty thin. It's sheepskin in both cases, I believe. Yeah. So this part's pretty thin, but this part up here, that is quite thick. And that is very knife proof. Like, I can stab at myself. I have only cut through it one time, and that tool tried to take off, like, my leg. I did not know that tool was as sharp as it ended up being. I'm not even sure it went all the way through. I think it did, though. But yeah, that thing was, like, I'm pretty sure I could have, it's a tiny little push tool, like, meant for scooping out, spoons and stuff, and I'm pretty sure I could have taken someone's head off with it, like, just gone, right, it was so sharp and concerning just how sharp it was, and I will never, it is no longer that sharp because I've used it a bunch on, like, wood carving. I ended up being a lot more careful with it, but it also went straight through one of those self-healing mats. That's how sharp it was. So yeah, it's gonna go through the heavier sheepskin up here, because it went straight through, like, what's supposed to be a relatively knife-proof healing mat. So the only damage I did to myself, aside from I've gotten myself, like, little nicks over time, the only damage I did was the very first time I ever did it, I was using it to carve heels, which I no longer do. And I had the heel sitting on my leg and just went like that. And let me see where it is. Don't think it was that. There's one that was, like, visibly just the exact shape of the tool. So I've gone through it a few times, but, like, knowingly. But for a while I used to have, like, weird that I can't find it right now. I'm guessing that must be it. But that's all I can figure out is that was the one. Probably that one right there. But yeah, it just went... I got myself pretty good on that one. It kind of, like, went right through my trousers. I was like, oh no. But it was fine. It wasn't, like, so bad that it was, like, a concern. It was very much just a Band-Aid level. But it was just like, oh no. I should be more careful with this. So, yeah. So usually my apron keeps me very safe. That was one of the first things that we made in shoemaking class. Because it also, you know, we were supposed to be making them and teaching ourselves how to do the sewing. I ended up not making mine because our teacher did not have enough aprons to hand out at that point, and so I was the one that was like, oh yeah, no, just get that to me later, I see you all the time. And it ended up being last minute that he finally got all the stuff to make the apron, so he ended up making it during our, like, second weekend. Which I find really funny because he therefore was the one that chose all the little shapes. And I don't know if you can see, but I have stars, suns, and moons, which is really interesting. Because I am definitely, like, I'm not, like, super into celestial, like, so I like space. I like that stuff more. I'm definitely weirdly religious in lots of different ways, and he is a very super Christian person. So I was like, do you, symbolism? Dude. Do you not? Okay. He didn't think anything of it. I just find it funny. I'm like, I feel like this is saying something on a level that you don't even realize. Because he did different shapes for different people. So these are the shapes that I got. He did, like, the diamond clubs heart, like, card sort of stuff for somebody else. It's just whatever he came up with that you could do 4 of. I'm just like, okie dokie. P.S. Fancy. Because they're just basically little grommets washer sort of thing. Which is really useful for adjustment. Alright. Both of those are set. Will definitely dry by tomorrow, which is fine. If anything, rather have it pretty dry. Just dry it into the right shape. Because it's just all going to be glued down, and it's easier to do that with some peeling masking tape satisfying noises. Yes. Weirdly, it very much is. Okay, so both of those are good to go for lasting over tomorrow. Once I'll remove the tape, remove the instep leather, and remove the the cardboard shank, and it'll just be the instep leather, insole leather. Wow, words, Nicole. Insole leather for that. I need to do the toe caps next. That was the other thing I need to do and have dry. Oh, I'm almost there. I'm almost as far as I needed to be today. Or wanted to be is a better way of putting it. Like, need is relative. I think there's also some satisfaction with the sound, based off of, like, experiences with said sound. Alright, let me go grab the toe cap thingies. Ooh. Ooh, stretch. I really just need to move. Because I have the camera there too. Darn it. Actually, what I really need to do is move my table slightly. I should do that. One way or the other. Doesn't matter which. Don't need my table in the middle of the room right now. I should scoot it either way so that way I can get around it easier. Because right now I have just enough obstacles both ways. I'm like, this is rough. Alright, let's hit you on the floor. One of my friends has something that's making her anxious to deal with right now, and so I guess we're just spamming her with TikToks. Distractions! Alright. Pare this down on that top edge so it's not too blunt, because we don't want it to show through the outside of the shoe. No blunt edges if you don't have to. weird leather. I had a friend give it to me a number of years ago before I left Williamsburg, and I was like, I don't know what I'm ever going to use this for, because it's like good quality leather, but it's like paper stiff, like super cardboard paper stiff when it's dry. And if you get it wet, it's a little bit pliable, but it's not super stretchy. I was like, what am I ever going to use this for? Because he gave me like this whole hide of it. It's more like, it's not like normal leather. It's more like, it's not tanning. But, it's just so weirdly stiff. I was like, what am I ever going to use it for? And it turns out, fun fact, it's like literally the most perfect thing ever for, shoe stiffening. So I'm like, this is great. I have so much of this, and I'm good for years. So I'm quite glad about that. Wait, too far down. So, weirdly, strangely, ending useful. Okay. Let's try to get an idea. I think that should be about where I want it. There's always this question of like, you're now putting a stiff toe cap, do you want it like, how far back do you put it so that way it's not ending up cutting into your foot in like a weird place, because you need it to be far enough forward that it's not like past where your toes are bending, and you don't want to have like start creasing there. So, but should grab something real fast. Doesn't hurt to keep around one of the shoes that you built on the last, so that way you can compare things. Oh yeah, we're good on that. Yeah, okay. This one doesn't have any toe in it. Yeah, very different construction. Needle tacks. It's better to shape this over the insole if I can, so that way it's a little closer to final shape that I need. Sounds are so weird, man. Like, our ability to deal with them comfortably, like, some things drive people nuts, some things people don't care about. Like, just, like, it, so, not surprisingly, being on neurodivergent TikTok, as it were, I've had the, oh yeah, this is that brown noise, like white noise, but it, like, you know, basically it's just a whole bunch of people who are neurodivergent in different ways, listening to the noise and, like, feeling like their brain is just kind of, like, silent and quiet for the first time in a very long time. I listen to it and have a panic attack. Like, I cannot do that noise. That gives me so much anxiety to listen to. I don't know why. Don't like it. Like, no. This is not, no. And, like, I can handle stuff like that, but usually, like, I have, like, air cleaner or humidifier going at night in my room. That's not a big deal to me. But for whatever reason, that particular noise actually just gives me anxiety, rather than clearing my mind. Like, nope, just chaos. I feel like that's one of those things, like, we as humans have dramatically different, like, food tastes, we have different ideas of what we like from music and everything else. Like, we don't like the same foods, we don't like the same music, we don't like the same colors, we don't like the same decor, we don't like the same anything, yet somehow we believe that there's some standardized version of what the most beautiful or attractive thing is in terms of a person. Like, what is this nonsense? Oh, the sound of scissors cutting hair in your ears. That's understandable. That is one of the few sounds that can totally give me the ASMR tingles. So for me, it works positively, but I can totally understand why that would not be okay for a lot of people. But that is one of the few sounds that full on gives me ASMR tingles, which I discovered, just even thinking about it. I discovered when I was in Disney World many, many, many years ago as a kid, and they had an exhibit thing on, like interactive sort of exhibit on how movies are made, and they discussed sound booths and sound effects and Foley artists and stuff like that. And there was one section where you could go in and put on headphones and hear things around you, like it was actually happening in, like, 3 surround sound sort of thing. Yeah, the tickly thing for me is the ASMR tingles. Like, that's actually pretty similar to the feeling that I get. I mean, it just depends on whether that feels positive or negative to you. Hello, neighbor with loud scooter. Okay, 7:30. Keep forgetting what time zone everybody's in. You come back here. Just need you to lay down nice and flat, which means all of the little tacks. That way I can trim this back and hammer it down as flat as possible later. Of course it did. Of course it's off. Do I care? Probably not. I don't know. I can cut it. I'll just cut it. Put it straight again. Honestly, that's easier than reshaping the whole thing at this point. Just stretched a little funny once I actually put the toe down. I can just move that one. If I just move the one, it'll be fine. There we go. That should be even enough. Yeah, there we go. Here we go. That should work. Oh, fun. Just lost a tack to invisible place. Whee! I'll find that later when I don't want to. Oh, no, there it is. For you. It's only 5 o'clock for me. So, it's not even dinner time yet. Getting there. I'm almost there. Okay, let's trim this back. I'll do the other one. And then it will be about time for me to wrap up and go figure out what I'm doing about foods. This will get trimmed down a fair bit more when I actually last it and glue it and all that stuff. But for right now, at least get some of the bulk out. So I can hopefully flatten it down a smidge more. The Bailey has left. So now I'm allowed to use my hammer again. It's one of the only sounds that she's bothered by is me hammering anything. Like, she can sometimes deal with a little bit of the softer noises on shoes, but she hates the noise of hammering. It's really interesting. Doesn't matter what surface I'm hammering on or what I'm hammering. Like, anything, like, doesn't matter. Just hates it. Like, like will run away. That and the sound of like the smoke alarm beeping, but like the you need a new battery beep that it does. That also sends her into like absolute panic attack, but that's a bit understandable. Like no one likes that. Good good resources for 19 teens brazier, like for a pattern or for like pre-made repo. What are we looking for? I don't know off the top of my head patterns, but I know there are some out there. From some of the ones usually on Etsy, a lot of them have those things. So, so definitely go looking for those. There are quite a few brands that are well known for their patterning options for vintage things that have good ones. Yeah, I mean Foundations does, but unless you really want to sign up for all that. There are a lot of companies that have like nice repro ones that you can just get individually on Etsy. I do definitely recommend quite a few of those brands I've used before, so. Yeah, I just generally start with Etsy, most of them, and then double check that, make sure that they have only an Etsy store, because if you can buy not on Etsy, that's always ideal. They have like a off website, their own website, which is always good. But I think Wearing History does. I think a few others do. I came across a bunch when I was looking at 1920s stuff, so I know that they're out there. I'm only on Foundations because I did a lot of courses back in the day on it, and it just kind of kept me there, but I honestly cannot tell you the last time I accessed any of it. There was a short while where I did, where they actually were regularly putting out lives and videos on things, but I don't know. It got kind of weird after a while, so I just kind of stopped all of the notifications. But yeah, that's a long story of its own. Should hold that pretty well. Nice, so I have the heel cup back there, and the toe cap there, which will get inset like in between the lining and outer fabric partway through the process. Here, I like, did Bailey come back up? I'm confused. Okay. Well, that won't lay down perfectly, but good enough. Alright, let's do the other one. Oof. Yeah. Some days you're definitely just maxed out on things that your brain is trying to focus on. Your brain's got too many things going on at the same time, and it is not prioritizing correctly, and sound can be a problem. I think it's that, like, everybody be quiet, I need to concentrate. But everything is making noise, even the fridge. Yeah, I honestly don't know how I'd function in a space where I didn't have, like, places where I can go by myself. Like, thankfully, the only time that isn't really the case is, like, on trips or things like that, and I can usually manage something, and especially if I'm traveling with, like, Abby, we're both, like, we have a, I don't want to say unspoken, because we've talked about it, agreement of, if we just stop talking, there's nothing against you. Like, if we just disappear and, like, don't want to, like, that both of us are in the, sometimes we just need to not, so, thankfully, traveling with Abby is really easy because we tend to have pretty similar, like, we're over this points, so, that's why we always room together. But, and we're also both pretty, like, oh yeah, you don't want to come to this? That's fine, I'm gonna go to that. Like, there is no judgment to that, and if somebody wants to stay home and rest, cool. Or stay in the room and rest, or whatever it is. That's not usually a judgment of, like, oh, fine, if you don't want to come with us. So, hopefully on the cruise it will work out well. We also have one of the balcony rooms, even though it's going to be cold outside and we probably won't want to spend much time out there, it's still nice to have, like, I need to literally step outside, get a shock of cold air and silence for a moment. I can't say that I particularly like the smell of nitro gloves, but, like, I can see that. I can get it. I understand where that's coming from. There's, like, a sweetness to it. Turn this on even though the fan's on, but whatever. Just in case the light's blinding out. Not do that. I always say, like, the most dangerous thing in shoemaking is not the knives, because usually you're holding on to the not sharp end and paying attention. It's the tacks. It's just like sewing. You're less likely to get yourself with the scissors, you are with the pins. So it's all these little tacks. Those are the danger. Those are the things that'll get you, because even though it's the ends that are really super sharp, the tops are just sharp enough because they're, you know, flat metal, but they'll still bite you. Smell is such an interesting thing. Especially when it's like stuff that tricks your brain into thinking it's something else. Like food flavors and scented candles and perfumes and things like that. It's just like so weird. Like, is that grape? No. It's not actually grapes. It's just this one weird flower that always. Ooh. Yeah, I know a number of people have gone through their fingers with sewing machines, but hand is a bit much. Like, I think I got through my finger once, but it was in a place that I don't have any feeling because I got it with a knife many, many years ago. So I was like, did I just sew through the side of my finger? I was at work when I did that, like, in a place that freaked out when you did stuff like that. And, like, I apparently accidentally said it out loud, and the person next to me is the only one that heard me, and she kind of had a small panic attack. I'm like, no, it's fine. There's no blood. Like, I honestly don't know if I did because I have nothing but callus there. So let's just never speak of this again. I don't want to do the paperwork. You don't want to do the paperwork. There is no damage if I'm questioning it. Might as well just forget it ever happened. Let's make a pact to never speak of this again. Yeah, because I was just trying to push something through with my left hand, and it just slipped underneath enough. Like, so it's definitely feasible. I've seen it happen quite a bit in my years of teaching people how to sew. That definitely happened more than once, but that's also a little bit different because I need to go dampen this a little bit more. Second, put this in the water for a second. Oh, stand up. That's also good. I've also had my outer soles in the sink soaking since this time roughly yesterday because those things, one, leach so many tannins, and I don't want to discolor anything if I can avoid it. So I want to get out as much of that as I can before I go to actually last the light colored shoe upper. And two, like, they take forever to properly saturate because they're so compacted. All safer to use than scissors. Oh no. Oop. Alls are not. The reality is there's very few tools of any type that are remotely safe, just because even any sort of like, even this sort of thing, like I hit my hand with this, with the lasting pliers all the time. Like there's nothing safe about it. Because it's just a matter of like how much damage is done and how reversible that damage is. Tack in here to hold this down while it dries. Push it away. Be a little bit lumpy, but I'll deal with that tomorrow. I don't think my box of food to cook has showed up, so I think it's order out night. Yeah, I finally came across one of those Etsy stores that sells all the stuff you need for like the new belt and like everything for an antique machine. I got very excited, so eventually I can fix the one up that I've got. It's still in perfect running condition. It just needs the table that it goes into fixed. Actually, like, it's fine. The table broke. Nothing important on the table broke, just the like scrap piece of wood that holds it in place underneath. So nothing that's not easily replaced, just have to do it. Okay. Well, I now have toe caps and heel covers. On both of them. What antique sewing machine? I honestly don't recall. It's a family piece that's been in a box for a very long time. It's around like 1908 or something, I think, when I looked it up. So, yeah, it like we still have the table that it was in with, you know, foot pedal and all that. It's in an awkward place in the closet, otherwise I'd go look, but that room has become a throw all the things in there temporarily room lately, so I don't have space to get into the closet. Alright, all this stuff should dry, be ready to go tomorrow for assembly. I don't have the insoles, I mean the outsoles cut yet, but I don't need them cut just yet. They're soaking. There's, you know, soaking is good. I have the uppers ready except for one buttonhole, but that can be done afterwards if I really want to. Heels need everything to be lasted up for me to double check their shape and everything first. So I can't cover those or sand them down like really nicely yet. Yeah, I think everything's waiting on tomorrow. I'm waiting on this stuff to be dried, and then I will pare this down as much as I can and even it up and get the uppers lasted and get these things in and all the layers together. So hopefully pretty quickly tomorrow. Like Madonna. hopefully pretty quickly tomorrow I can get these lasted up to the point where I'm ready for the heel and outer sole, and as long as I can get to that point, that's enough for the day. But if I can manage to get that stuff also figured, then that's that is my better situation. Cool. But the main thing was getting to this point so that way everything that I have on here is drying in the right shape. That was the entire point of today. So this was the point that I needed to reach, so click my heels together. Hooray, I made it. I made it as far as I needed to. Which is basically like, I can only make it this far and I kind of have to stop. Because now it just has to sit and dry, so it's not like I can keep going from here. Anxious for friend. Okay. Well, I need to make sure to take my mug downstairs and charge that. That is important. I'm gonna have a cookie. Drying in this economy? Look at this. Oh, that frames it up nicely. Oh no. How long does it dry? Until it's dry. For me, it'll be dry in the morning because I live in the desert. It doesn't have to be dry. I just find it's better if I can dry these things the day before I actually put everything together. It means that the contact cement also dries a little bit faster. Don't have to wait as long on that, and it also reduces the amount of fumes I have to deal with for that reason. It means that I can get the thing together really fast. And if I'm in a situation where I'm fully prepped, like the heel's already done and everything, then I could technically assemble the entire shoe tomorrow and pop it off the last. But again, it's better done if something inside of it is already a little bit dry. Because then I'm not popping it off and it's like de-shaping itself. So, may I have more socks? So yeah, I haven't done it this way before where I've lasted the whole thing up like this and then let it dry. I don't normally do that because usually I just like do it all at the same time as I'm going. So I'm trying it a little bit differently this time. Like the theme of the video for this, not just this pair of shoes, I'm doing 2 pairs, is basically all the things that I have learned to do differently than I did at some point and was like, oh no, that was a bad idea. So it's just going to be a whole bunch of like useful things you should know and think about while doing shoemaking in different ways. So, and like why I did one thing versus the other and why there's different techniques for the 2 different shoes and stuff like that. Just kind of like talking about, let's say step by step and more just all of the things of note. Like, oh, here, notably, this is why I'm doing it this way. Because these reasons. Or make sure you do this, or don't do this, or here's why you add a toe cap, or don't add a toe cap, or blah, blah, blah. So, hopefully. But yeah, it'll, just because it's layered up right now, so it's already dry around the edges, like, for the first 1/4 inch of the insole is already very much dry. These things, like the toe caps and heel caps, will dry in about an hour. The full insole, because of the stuff that's taped on top, will probably just be maybe slightly damp in the morning, but it'll be pretty close to dry. But should be good. Punk myself in my glasses. Yeah. Easiest shoe to make on a new last to check fit. Depends on whether you, 1, want to be able to wear the shoe. And 2, what sort of fit you need, because there's different types. Like a pump needs to fit very differently than like a boot that laces up or an Oxford that laces up. Because if you're like making sure that a pump fits, then you're not going up over the foot. But if you're making sure that that might be a problem later. And if you're making sure that an Oxford fits, then you're not making sure that the pump is at the right height and isn't cutting in and like awkward, because it will feel very different. So in general, pumps are the most finicky. Oxfords are the most forgiving, in my opinion. So yeah, just something with a really simple lace over the, like, 4-hole lacing over the top of the foot, sort of simple thing is fine. Or yeah, like Constance said, a slipper sort of situation is not bad. If it's something you want to be slightly wearable, then yeah, slipper, but like around the back of the foot type slipper, just with a higher vamp that goes kind of up over the foot, with a tab sort of situation. I usually, I've taught a few people how to do shoemaking before, and provided we're not in a I need to make this exact shoe situation, I usually will start them with a backless slipper. It won't really give you exact fit though, for a test thing. But yeah, pig leather works for that. I don't recommend pig leather for wearing for any length of time because it will not stretch back. But a really easy material to work with, and not the most expensive, but really easy to work with and makes up really nicely and is very comfortable to wear and forgiving, is kangaroo. I just keep kangaroo around, usually multiple colors. I need to order some very soon because I'm really low. I'm almost out of all of my kangaroo, but I can't justify spending more money right now till I because I backed off on how many videos I'm doing and all that stuff. So until I and I've got some trips and things coming up. So I'm like, all right, I can't justify more right now. But yeah, kangaroo is easy to work with. It's very friendly. So, okay, I'm gonna go order some dinner and wash my hands because they smell like leather. It's a good smell. And check on the dog, make sure she hasn't chewed her paw off or whatever. So, thanks for hanging out with me, whether you've been here just a short while or all day. Yeah, I don't know how much I'll be back around tomorrow. I will try to a little bit, I think. But I might have to focus more tomorrow. It just depends on what I'm feeling like, how tired I am, and whether I can do 2 things at once. But, you know, kangaroo leather, at least most of it, it's a complex thing, in terms of whether it's farmed or whether it's dealing with pests or whatever, because, issues, but, yep. So, okie dokie. I will see you guys soon. Bye.